in most instances, unless there's a breathing issue going on, in which case, no matter what position they're in, they're probably going to have difficulty. So I am going to describe the recovery position. I'm going to give hints on how to get a person into the recovery position if they're a particularly large person, if they're maybe in a very awkward, maybe they're laying in mud or something, or who knows what, in the middle of boulders, whatever is going on. Okay, so Braden.
Yep.
All right.
So I'm laying on my back currently with my hands folded across my chest and my legs straight out.
Okay, everybody got that? Yeah. Okay, so dependent on what side of the person you wind up on. Right now, I am on Braden's right side, okay? So unless there is an injury on the right side, in which case I'll move, or if I think there's an injury on the right side, I think there's blood coming, there's a broken bone, then I'll move to the other side. However, if I don't think there's an injury on the right side and I happen to be on the right side, what I'm going to do is I am going to take his right arm, so the arm closest to you, whatever that happens to be under the circumstances. I'm going to take his right arm and I'm going to extend it straight up into above his head, okay? So if he were standing, his hand would be, facing the ceiling, okay? So straight above his head. I just took his arm and it's straight out, okay? Now, what we want to do is we want to get him so that his head is resting on that extended arm and so that his knees are bent so that his body is stable. If his legs are stretched out, he could kind of roll back onto his back, and you don't want that to happen. So what you're going to do is you're going to place your hand, usually your dominant hand, but it doesn't matter, on the opposite shoulder. So in this instance, my left hand is on, because this is going to be easier, my left hand is on his left shoulder. I have my hand curled underneath to the back of his shoulder. I'm going to take my other hand and place it behind his knees, okay, or on the top of his leg. I am going to, as gently as I can, move him. I might have to, Braden happens to be skinny. I can't stand him. But Braden happens to be skinny, but even if you're dealing with a more bulky person, a muscular person, a large person, you're going to do the same thing. And if you need to pull a little bit, that's fine. So you have your one hand underneath the opposite leg behind the knees, and you have one hand kind of underneath, on top of and underneath the shoulder. So I'm going to pull him towards me, okay? Now his legs are a little straight, so I'm going to bend the knees to keep him stable. And his head, naturally, in most instances, the head is going to get onto the arm. Now if it doesn't, okay, if the head is sort of, lolling or whatever, you may notice there's a head injury, in which case just leave him alone, okay? But if it happens and he moves and you see that there's a head injury, just don't worry about it. Just don't, if you discover that once you've moved somebody, just don't move them anymore, okay? Unless, of course, the scene becomes unsafe. So did everyone understand the description that I just gave, or does anyone need me to repeat anything?
I have a question, Renee.
Yes.
So it sounds